Hello everyone and welcome to the Crash Bandicoot 4 It's About Time review. Yep, I'm going to be reviewing this game. Yes, I did give my opinions at the end of my final live stream, but I wanted to go in a bit more in depth. I wanted to go a bit more in depth on my personal opinion about the game, so in that way I can convince you guys maybe you want to give it a try. So let's talk about this game. Let's talk about the story of this game. This game's story plot takes place after Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped. So if you've played Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped, the ending in Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped is that Cortex, Entropy, and Uka Uka, they get sent into a new dimension somewhere. They get sent to into a new dimension very far away. Cortex, Uka Uka, and Entropy are trapped there. So that's what happened at the end of Crash 3, and we began the game when they were still in that dimension, and it was taking them years to get out. I'm not sure exactly how many years, 20 years, I'm not sure how many years, because in the opening cutscene, Cortex shows how many years it's been since Uka Uka has been trying to escape. But, yeah, Uka Uka finally eventually opens a teleporter to escape, and Entropy, who mainly takes control, he takes control, and you pretty much don't see him for the rest of the game until he reveals his big plot right about close to the end. So there are some cutscenes, but you don't really see many, especially of the bad guys, plotting their plans and all that stuff. But you do see Engine and Brio. It's great to see Brio again. Brio hasn't been a boss since the original first Crash Bandicoot game, so it was cool to see Brio back. He's a staple in the Crash series. Engine is Cortex's right-hand man. And so the big thing here is that people need to understand that this is the fourth game. I've had a couple of people, get confused. I had a couple of people get confused because in my live streams I said that this is the first time that Cortex and Crash Bandicoot ever team up. And I had someone tell me, oh, they teamed up in Crash Twinsanity. Yes, they did team up in Crash Twinsanity, but that is the fifth installment. That is the fifth game in the series. This is the fourth game. This game takes place after Warped. What happens in Twinsanity does not happen yet. So I just wanted to make that very clear, that Twinsanity, I guess it's in its own dimension, because dimensions and timelines are involved. It gets very confusing in this game because dimensions and timelines are involved. It's just a big giant mess. They're kind of trying to turn this into Dragon Ball Z. There's timelines, this certain timeline. In this timeline, Torna is the main hero and Crash and Coco are dead. And in this timeline, Dingo Dial is a chef for the Dingo's Diner. There's different timelines and time periods. It's messy. So I can see why people get confused, but this is the fourth game. So by my calculations, since this is the fourth game, this is the first time Crash and Cortex have ever teamed up. Because you guys know the plot by now if you have played the game. Overall, other than that, that's the basics of the story. But the other basics of the story is that these rifts open, as what Lanny Lonely called them, the quantum rifts. And yes, one of the net quantum marks, Lally Lowly, you meet in the second stage. You meet him in the second stage, and you need to go find the rest of his siblings, as he called them. Akano, Ika, and the one that stops time. I tend to forget that mask's name. I tend to forget her name. I know I said it in the live stream, but I tend to forget her name. Sometimes I do remember, sometimes I tend to forget. The mask that stops time. You know which one I'm talking about. So yeah, you gotta go find all of them. And there are a total of about 4 bosses? 5, because you got Engine. You had Engine, who he was the first boss. Engine. I'm not gonna complain about this, but I find this pretty weird. This isn't a complaint, this is just a bit weird. Engine was the second last boss in Crash 2 and Crash 3, and then he gets relegated to being the first boss. That is really weird. That is very weird. But yeah, Engine was the first boss. We had some big fish face in the aquatic world or the pirate world, where you meet Torna. You got another boss. You had Embryo, who was kind of very similar to the first game. Nothing really different about him there, but you're using Akano to knock him off. There were a few worlds that didn't have any bosses, and I thought that was a bit weird. Like, it's not very weird, it's very bizarre. If there's no boss, then you're rescuing a quantum mask. That is the thing, because one of the quantum masks, Akano, gets teleported to another dimension, the one in the pirate world. So, yeah. You meant to go save him from Engine, but he falls off, and then he goes into the pirate dimension. And speaking of the pirate dimension, that's where you meet Torna, and Torna is completely different in this game. Now, this is where timelines get really mixed up. There is a Torna in the present world, as far as I know, but she's gone. Either she's dead or something, like, she's been gone. She doesn't exist anymore, I'm assuming, in the present world of Crash Bandicoot. So there's like a new Torna. So there's a new Torna from another dimension who became the main hero because Crash and Coco died in her dimension. So I guess maybe what they're trying to say is that present day Torna dies in the present day, but then they swap. But then in Torna's timeline, it's completely swapped. She survives, but Crash and Coco dies. I don't know. We don't know the true definition of what goes on here. I'm just speculating here. So Torna is completely gone. We got this new Torna, who, yeah, she does recognize Crash and Coco. And for those who don't know what happened to the original Torna from Crash Bandicoot 1, the original Torna had long blonde hair. She was a bit more, you know, more like a damsel in distress. Kind of like Princess Peach is to Mario. You go rescue her in the first game, and then you never see her again. You never see Torna again after the first game. And that was the one thing that very confused me. You had Crash save her in the first game, but there's no Torna in Crash 2, no Torna in Crash 3. I thought that was very, very bizarre. And then here in Crash 4, we got this all new Torna who's more of a badass. Who's gonna punch you in the face. A different Torna who's gonna punch you in the face instead of trying to look all pretty. So, and you got Dingo Dial, who has the Australian accent. You know, he's got a good old Australian accent. And he's become a good guy. I'm not sure if this is the same Dingo Dial from Crash 3, or if this is a completely different Dingo Dial. But Dingo Dial, he's now retired his flamethrower, and he is now a chef at Dingo's Diner. And by the way, the voice actor portraying Dingo Dial was doing a really poor job at trying to put on an Australian accent. Dingo Dial's character, if you guys have played Crash 3 and other Crash games and you've heard Dingo Dial's voice, you know Dingo Dial has an Australian accent, you know, like us. People like me. He has an Australian accent. And the fact that his character was really trying, the person that was portraying the character tried to put on an Australian accent, you know, I'll give him points for trying. I'll give him points for trying, that's for sure. And the other thing I found pretty bizarre, I did mention this in my streams as well, is that this game is based in Australia, which I thought that was pretty weird. Maybe that's why Dingo Dial is an Australian animal. He's basically a dingo and a crocodile, if you know what I mean. Dingo Dial. And apparently bandicoots are animals. Not sure if they're Australian animals, but people have said they're animals. And the game's based in Australia, which is something I didn't know. A lot of detail. There was a lot of detail about this, that's for sure. So, anyway, some of the levels. How did I fare in most of the levels? Well, if you saw my live stream, I went deathless in the first 2 levels, and I just completely died in all the other levels. Not saying I failed them miserably, that some of them were hard and challenging, that, you know, didn't make me angry, except one level, but we'll get to that later. Some of the levels were fine. I really did love the design of some of the levels, and I did enjoy the majority of the bosses, like I said, Engine, Embryo, a fish face, Cortex. You know, Cortex was a boss. Like, I almost thought I was at the end of the game, because, you know, Cortex being a boss and everything. There were also colored gems. There are 4 colored gems, and they're all pathetically easy. Except for one. Except for one of them. The rest are just pathetically easy. The red one I immediately got in my first playthrough, in my first run on my live streams. I will link my live stream. I will link the playthrough in the cards, so then you guys can watch the playthrough yourselves if you guys haven't seen it, like in its complete, because it's complete now. Yeah, I got the red gem in my first run. Because there's like this graphic on like a brick wall, and you see like a graphic and it tells you what to do, and you know, I got the red gem. The green gem wasn't too difficult either. You spin a bin, and then like a remote control comes out, and you keep spinning you keep spinning the remote control to make like a robot car move, and then it crashes into the nitros, and then you got yourself the green gem. The hardest gem was the blue gem in I forgot the level's name. Dragon Up or something? Dragon On. That's the word. Dragon On. Because there's a Pacific box gem that this gem you gotta get without hitting a single box. Now the last time that was done, that was in Crash Bandicoot 2, and that was in the first level, where you could run through Turtle Woods without breaking a single box. Dragon On, however, is later, and this was the most challenging one out of them all. I did eventually get it, but I will say it was definitely much harder. It was like the hardest gem. And the yellow one was just pathetically easy. It's like just hidden above one of the stages, and you could just easily find it. They really didn't do a good job with these gems. They really didn't do a good job with them, I will definitely say. I didn't go for 100% either. You know, I at least was trying to get all the crates, but eventually later on when the game got harder, I was just like, yeah, screw it. I'm not just going to go for all the crates. So, yeah, like I said, there were a couple of hard levels. Dingo Dial had his first level, which was really fun. There were some levels I really had a lot of fun with. Sure, there was frustration involved, like me dying and everything. But the game just didn't make me angry. It didn't make me angry except for one particular level. But I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. So let's get back into the story. When you battle Cortex the first time, Entropy insults Cortex for not dealing with Crash Bandicoot, and Cortex tells him that he quits and he doesn't want to work for him anymore. But then Entropy just tells straight up to Cortex, yeah, I didn't need you anyway. I already had someone work. I replaced you with somebody else, and who was scheming behind his back. And then the comedy in this game as well. Man, there were a handful of times I laughed at the comedy. It was really great. I loved it. The humor that the game gave. And yes, I didn't give Coco a lot of love. Poor old Coco. I didn't give her a lot of love in the game. I think I played as her a couple of times. Other than that, I just stuck with Crash. But yeah. So Entropy is now, to me it feels like he was gonna be the main villain, and he said he had a new apprentice, and that new apprentice ended up being an alternate timeline version of himself, which was a girl. Entropy. I cannot lie to you, that was kind of lame. I'm gonna be honest with you. I did think that was a bit lame. Nitrous Oxide being in the game. Now, I am aware who he is. I've played, where's the game? It's in here somewhere. It's in here somewhere. Here it is. I've played Crash Nitro Field, okay? I play this on the Switch. And I'm aware who Nitrous Oxide is because of that game. Because he's the main boss in that game. In Crash Team Racing Nitro Fuel. So I am aware who I am aware who he is. And he's also one of the bosses in the original Crash Bash back on the PS1, back in the very old days. So I am aware who Nitrous Oxide is. So, it was cool to see him. It was very cool to see him. So yeah, I did find that pretty lame and pretty weird that Entropy's new assistant was just basically himself, but was just more of a female version of himself. And apparently that was the Entropy that Torna has been facing in her timeline. Which... See, this is what I mean. Like, you got all these dimensions and timelines. They're not explaining anything. They're not explaining... yes, the quantum rifts opened because of Entropy. Yes, these quantum rifts opened because of Entropy, and he's messing up the timelines. But how does... But if Torna knew who her main villain was, why didn't she... make it clear? This is why I felt like there was more cutscenes. This is why I feel like there should have been a bit more cutscenes to explain what was going on. Just magically seeing this Entropy and Torna just pointing at Entropy, just pointing at her. It was just so weird. It was just very weird. They didn't explain that she's been dealing with Entropy in her dimension. I felt like there were more... I feel like there was a lot of missed opportunity to explain the different timelines, the different dimensions. Yes, you're going through different dimensions in the game. You're changing dimensions as you're going through the games. But Torna and Dingo Dial came from other dimensions as well. They clearly must have been following you. But, they just didn't really do a good job on explaining. In my personal opinion, I felt like they didn't do a good job explaining some of these timelines and how Torna knew about Entropy. She didn't tell Crash or Coco that she's been fighting this Entropy for a while. It's like they just put these two Entropies together and they just expect us to just roll with it. So I did find it a bit lame that they really didn't explain much of it. Now, as for the levels themselves, as I said, some of them were really fun, some of them were a bit aggravating. especially Rush Hour, which was especially Rush Hour, the one where you play as Dingo Dial and Torna. That one didn't bother me too much. It was just the ending. It was just the ending where you had to use Torna and you had to jump across fast-moving traffic. I just did not like that at all. I found that really... It gave me a headache. It gave me a major headache. I did not like it at all. Yes, you may think, well, you just need to get better. Yes, I do need to get better, but at the same time, the traffic is just so intense. Like, how the hell are you supposed to time it while the traffic is moving incredibly quick? Now, if this was Crash, if you were playing as Crash and you had the mask that was able to slow down time, then yeah, it wouldn't have been so bad. But you're playing as characters that could not slow things down. So that was my major headache there. Other than that, like, Cortex's controls, he's a bit wonky, he's very weak. He only has his gun, which, really is bad with its aiming. It's like he's a goddamn stormtrooper. Jesus Christ. It's like he's a goddamn stormtrooper. Like, he could, like, Jesus Christ. I was literally having difficulties just shooting a TNT crate. That is how bad that is how bad his weapon is. Like, I was like standing in front of it. Like, I was standing in front of the TNT and he was shooting it and it wasn't blowing up. Like, seriously. No wonder why this guy can't beat Crash Bandicoot. Dingo Dial, his new weapon of choice is a vacuum cleaner, which helps him hover, where he aims it downwards and it pushes him up, so he hovers for at least a couple of seconds with the vacuum. I did find some of the hidden gems, but I didn't find them all, which is obviously fair, which is fair enough, because I don't know where all of them are. And secondly, the final world where you go back to 1996 was actually a nice change of pace. I thought that was pretty cool. And after you defeat Entropy, you go to this new snacks dimension where I talked about where you go through that level with Dingo Dial and Torna. Once you're done with Cortex's level in that world, what do you think Cortex does? Do you think he really is turning over a new leaf? No, he shoots one of the masks, paralyzes them, and uses her powers to go back to 1996. Boy, oh boy, who would have seen that coming? Cortex turning heel. There's Cortex's heel turn right there. He turns on everybody. What a shocker, right? Heel turn for Cortex. Now, in my personal opinion, my favorite part of the game was the final world, where you had the two Cortexes bantering at each other. It was just hilarious. It was absolutely hilarious. Cortex was calling himself a fraud. He was literally talking to himself, like the present Cortex is talking to the past Cortex. And Cortex is calling himself a fraud. Fraud! 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 I think Sami Zayn would like to have a word with you, Cortex. It was just so hilarious. I did find that pretty cool. I did find that really funny and very entertaining to see two Cortexes bickering amongst themselves. That was pretty funny. And holy cow, the stages were really long, very hard. I made a lot of mistakes. I think my worst performance was Cortex Tower. I think I got 39 deaths. I think that was literally my worst performance. And speaking of Cortex Tower, yes, that last bit at the end of that level, whew, that is very, very challenging. And I gotta admit, I don't know if many other people have done it that way, but if you guys watch my last part of that level, there was a specific point where I missed, I think her name's Kapuawa. I think that's her name. Kapuawa. I think that's the name of the time-stopping mask. I think that's her name. She's, like, you got a Kano, and you're surrounded by a bunch of TNT. I was able to get rid of some of them. And there was these really quick bouncing crates that you gotta slow down time for. And I completely missed her. I completely missed Kapuawa. I don't know if other people have done it this way as well. Like, I missed Kapua, and I somehow managed to get through that Pacific point, even though I got crushed and I had not Aku to protect yourself. And I was still able to get through despite the damage boost. Was able to get to the end. And I was amazed that I was able to do that despite me completely messing that up. And I don't know if other people have done it that way, but that was very, very impressive. I was very impressed with me doing that, even though that is not what I was intending to do. But I did it anyway, so I thought that was pretty entertaining. And you battle Cortex again for the last time, and you pretty much beat the game after that. You beat Cortex, and yeah, the game's over. And I got the first ending, because there are other endings. There's another ending where you completely get everything, like all those relics, all those time relics, all those gems you get. I'm not doing that. I'm not going and getting every gem. I'm not going to go get every gem. I'm not going to get all the time relics. So, instead of doing that, I looked up the true ending. I looked up what the true ending is. You know how, and also in my streams, I did mention Uka. Like, he was completely gone from the game. Like, I don't know what the heck happened. Well, we know what happened to him. He was completely gone after the opening scene. But if you devote your time into getting every single gem from every single level, even the inverted modes. There was like a new inverted mode they added. Now, I have heard people complain about the inverted mode. I've heard some people say that they didn't like it. I definitely am not a fan of that either. It's definitely a new introduction, but I will say it's not something I was willing to do. But anyway, as I was saying, if you spend time of your day to go and get everything, all the gems, all the relics, all everything, all the flashback tapes, everything. If you go back and spend your time getting absolutely everything, the true ending is Uka revealing that he is still alive. The true ending is, you know how Cortex gets taken to the end of the universe by the quantum masks? That's the true ending. Uka appears where Cortex is, and he reveals himself to be alive. Yep, that's what you get if you 100% the entire game. In my opinion, that ain't worth it. That ain't worth it. Sure, it gives us... Sure, it shows us that Uka is still alive, but I just feel like it just wasn't worth it. The entropies are gone. We don't know if we'll see them again in the next Crash Bandicoot installment. The quantum and I guess Torna is now living with Crash and Coco because she was at the end. She was living with Crash and Coco at the Wampa Islands. I guess Torna is staying. I guess Torna is living with Crash and Coco again. So now Torna's timeline doesn't have a hero. So by that logic, her world doesn't have a hero anymore. And if there's ever a villain who comes to Torna's timeline and completely messes up her world, there will be no one there to save it because she would rather stay in the present day living with Crash and Coco. Good job, Torna. You're just like Trunks. You're just like Trunks from Dragon Ball Z. But anyway, that's really all I got to say about Crash Bandicoot. It's about time. I really did enjoy the game. Pretty frustrating at times with how difficult some of the levels were. But overall, I really did enjoy the game. I did enjoy the game. I really enjoyed it. It was a fun experience. I only recommend this game to people who really like platformers. 3D platformers. If you are into the platforming genre, like Super Mario or any kind of platformer, then I feel like this game is for you. But I do warn you, if you do want to give this game a try, you will die aplenty. You will die aplenty. So, I will say that. So, there are a lot of other things I do want to say, but I really don't want to drag this video out very long. One other thing I'll quickly mention here is the end goals. When you get when you finish your levels, you get all these gems. The one complaint that I have about these endings is that the 3 death penalty gem, I feel like that shouldn't be a thing. Because of how difficult the levels were. Like, there were so many levels. It's like Toys for Bob, the people that made this game, Toys for Bob. It's like they expected you to play through these levels over and over and over again, so then you can perfect your skills, so then that way you don't die less than 3 times. I feel like the 3 death penalty shouldn't be a thing in Crash Bandicoot 4. I feel like it shouldn't be a thing. I feel like you should get the gem regardless how many times you die. But because they threw in the 3 death penalty, yeah, I can't say I'm a fan of that. I can't say I'm a fan of the 3 death penalty either. The hidden gems, I did find, majority of them. Some of them were not very well hidden at all. Some were not well hidden at all. Some were actually pretty well hidden. I didn't find them. But other than that, that's really all I gotta say about this game. I didn't 100% it because I'm not going to. You can't make me. So yeah, I did enjoy the game. It was very frustrating at times, but I really did enjoy this game. I recommend you giving it a try if you want to. I do recommend it though. So I hope you guys enjoyed this review of Crash Bandicoot 4 It's About Time. If you guys did enjoy, hit that thumbs up. Let me know down below. If you've played the game before, you let me know down below what you guys thought of the game. Or if you guys saw my live stream and you want to give your opinions on my playthrough and did you enjoy it, let me know. Subscribe if you haven't done so. I'd greatly appreciate it if you did. And I will see you all next time.